Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Kris. Had a thing with my mouse starting to annoy me, and I just got this mouse and keyboard, so that's always good. My nose itches. Alright, this is part 5, Napoleon in Italy, part 5, Battle of Rivoli. I wanted to say ravioli, but they did not fight over food. Well, I'm sure they probably did, but let's just get with the video. My nose itches. Oh, it itches good.
MF Productions collaboration. In 1796, at the height of the French Revolutionary Wars, a young French general took charge of a ragged, demoralized army in northern Italy. It was his first command. Many expected him to fail. Instead, in just 1 month, he won his first brilliant campaign. With astonishing self-confidence, boldness and energy, he led his army to victory after victory, transforming the war in Europe, winning praise from a grateful republic, and forging a legend. This is the story of Napoleon Bonaparte's first campaign, and the dawn of a new age. January 1790.
That was blurry as hell. Sorry, I just want to try that again. That was way too blurry.
A new age.
There you go, that's better. Alright. Battle of Ravioli.
January 1797. A new year, but familiar problems for 27-year-old General Bonaparte, waging war against the Austrians in northern Italy. He has the great fortress city of Mantua under siege, and after a narrow victory at Arcole, he's once again driven back the Austrian armies trying to march to its aid. But the French army of Italy is in a ragged state. Troops have not been paid for weeks. Their uniforms are disintegrating. Their shoes are broken. And above all, they're hungry. One of Napoleon's major concerns is the wretched state of medical care for his men. The hospitals lack everything. Our wounded are lying on the floors and in the most horrible state of destitution. It's not just a question of saving lives and getting wounded men back to their units. Medical care affects morale, as troops going into combat want to know that if the worst happens, they'll be looked after.
I was just about to say, it's going to determine whether somebody, like on the last video, charges forward because they know that if they get shot, and it's not a bad shot, I mean all getting shot period is not good, but that's the difference between something that can be treated and something that will turn life-threatening. And if you have really good surgeons, really good doctors, certainly you don't want to get wounded, but that you will probably be a little more willing to put yourself out there, not because you think, oh, hey, we got great doctors, but because you know that you will be taken care of. If you're left in this situation, what incentive do you have to risk getting out of your cover or something? No, because you're I just realized this guy right here doesn't have any hands. Man, they made some brutal paintings, but I'd rather look at the painting than the real thing.
Conditions are much worse for the Austrian garrison of Mantua, commanded by Field Marshal Wurmser. months of siege, 9,000 soldiers have died from disease, wounds, or the effects of malnutrition. Survivors live off horse meat, civilians off rats and dogs. Even these miserable rations will run out by the 27th of January, just a few weeks away. The clock is ticking. The Austrians must relieve Mantua by that date, or lose the city, and with it, the war in Italy.
Everything hinges on just that city? Huh. All right. So much of Napoleon's letters right now, I see, and I'm sure an American will see, that you see George Washington's request for troops, food, better clothing, shoes. It's the same thing. And you feel so bad because you know that they're just suffering. I don't know why I was smiling when I said you feel so bad. I didn't mean to smile at that, but you understand what I'm saying.
Napoleon, having received just 7,000 reinforcements, prepares to meet Alvinci's advance. He will not only be outnumbered, he doesn't know where his enemy will strike. And Napoleon must hold one division back to cover Wormser's garrison. It's commanded once more by General Serrurier, recovered from his long illness. Augereau's division watches the Adige, while Massena guards Verona. The Northern Division has a new commander. Napoleon has sacked Vaubois for his poor performance, and put in his place General Barthélemy Joubert. He is a hard-working, brave, and exceptionally modest commander, and, like Napoleon, just 27 years old. General Ray is in reserve, south of Lake Garda. General Alvinczy has received 14,000 reinforcements, and orders to relieve Mantua as soon as possible. He is eager to march, but heavy snow and the late arrival of equipment and supplies delays his advance until the 7th of January. The first columns on the move are Provera and Berlich, but their offensive is merely a diversion intended to draw Napoleon's attention away from the main threat, which will be coming down the Adige Valley. Alvinczy has divided this force into 6 columns. Their mission is to envelop and destroy Joubert's division at Rivoli and clear the path to Mantua. But Rivoli is a strong defensive position. They must hit it hard and fast before the French can respond. Napoleon, assuming any Austrian advance is still weeks away, has travelled to the Papal States with a column of troops commanded by Colonel Lannes. They intend to put a little pressure on the Pope, who continues to stir opposition to France. However, as soon as he receives reports of enemy movement, Napoleon races back to his headquarters at Rovabella. By now, Alvinci's forces have also begun to advance, but serious planning failures quickly emerge. Lusignan's first column, on the right flank of the advance, has orders to cross the slopes of Monte Baldo and attack Joubert from the rear. It's soon clear that these orders are wildly optimistic, dreamed up by staff officers who'd not seen the terrain. The peak of Monte Baldo is more than 7,000 feet high, Its slopes are covered in deep snow and ice. The paths are treacherous, even more so after dark, and there is no firewood for making camp. Only by taking a wide detour can Lusignan make any progress at all, whilst losing 200 men to exhaustion and exposure. Meanwhile, the 2nd and 3rd Austrian columns reach the French outpost at Ferrara. An initial attack is repulsed, and following their orders, they wait for Lusignan's column to appear before launching a second attack. However, Lusignan's column is not yet in sight. Alvinci's plan relies on swift, bold action, but just 48 hours in, it's falling apart. At Rovarbella, Napoleon ponders the incoming reports. He knows that Joubert's forward outpost is under attack at Ferrara, that Massena has repulsed an Austrian attack on Verona, and Augereau faces a sizable Austrian force near Legnago, poised to cross the Adige. Is Alvinci using the same tactics as before, making his attack from the east? Then, a second report arrives from Joubert. His scouts have detected an enemy column marching around his flank. He has no doubt that he faces a major Austrian attack and has begun withdrawing his forces to Rivoli. "The report I have given you is exact," he tells his chief. "Be assured, the enemy will make every effort to throw me onto the blockade of Mantua." The enemy's plan has been unmasked, Napoleon announces, and issues a flurry of orders. Massena is to march immediately to reinforce Joubert. Augereau is to send him cavalry and guns, while the rest of his division keeps watch on Provera. Ray is to move up to Castelnuovo. Serrurier is to be on high alert for an attempted breakout by the Mantua garrison. While Joubert, the youngest and least experienced of Napoleon's divisional commanders, is instructed to hold Rivoli at any cost, and assured that help is on the way. After giving the Austrians a bloody nose at Ferrara, Joubert has extricated his troops overnight and taken up a defensive position around Rivoli. Napoleon arrives around midnight and immediately sets out with Joubert to inspect the enemy's positions. The weather had cleared and the moonlight was superb. I climbed the different heights and observed the lines of enemy fires. They filled the country between the Adige and Lake Garda, and the atmosphere was ablaze with them. One could easily distinguish 5 camps, each composed of a column. Until reinforcements arrive, Napoleon has just Joubert's division, 10,000 men, to hold off 24,000 Austrians. But Alvinci will help to even the odds by ordering Lusignan's first column to attempt a wide outflanking march to cut off the French line of retreat. And Napoleon decides the main road to Rivoli, which passes through a steep defile known as the Pontari, can be held by a single regiment supported by entrenched cannon. This leaves more manageable odds of 9,000 against 12,000 in the centre. But Napoleon wants to push out his defensive line to hold the slopes that mark the edge of the Rivoli plateau. At 4 a.m, General Vial's light infantry brigade advances through the darkness. They drive back the Austrian outposts and take the San Marco chapel. They're followed on their left by the rest of Joubert's division. But the French push too far. Skirmishes break out along the line, with heavy fighting on the heights of San Marco.
Did they push too far? Or were they lured out because they started running? Like, these guys didn't move. These guys didn't move. Not saying that that was, you know, an attempt, but they might have just gotten full of themselves and just chased them down, and now they're in an area where they could be. Even these guys, maybe they went too far. But I gotta believe that I mean, clearly wasn't the intent, but they got carried away. And of course, if they were set up to withdraw with the intent to lure them off of their line, then they did a great job. But who knows?
Napoleon had not wanted to start the battle so early, but the combat escalates. At dawn, the Austrians attack the plateau in force. The French 85th Demi-Brigade is outflanked and routed by Liptay's 2nd column. The 29th Light, on its right, is forced to retreat, and it looks like the French line is crumbling. But the 14th, on their right, fights tenaciously. It's an intense infantry battle across broken ground, vineyards and walled gardens, with sudden charges, hurried withdrawals, and counter-charges. When the Austrians overrun a French battery, an officer demands, "14th, will you let them take your guns?" His troops mount a ferocious charge that routs the Austrians and reclaims the battery. By 9 a.m, Massena's troops have begun to arrive. They take up position on Joubert's left. The buckled French line is stabilized. But so far, the French have only faced half of Alvinci's 6 columns. One by one, the others now join the action. Vukasovic's 6th column is on the far side of the Adige River. But its guns cause havoc among French troops holding the Pontari. Under this covering fire, Royce's 5th column charges up the narrow road and in fierce fighting storms the French entrenchments. This advance threatens the entire French right wing with encirclement, and a retreat begins. Moments later, gunfire to the southwest reveals Lusignan's 1st column has reached Affy, poised to cut off their escape. The French situation is desperate. They are outnumbered, surrounded, and under heavy attack. Napoleon's staff look anxiously to their commander, wondering what miracle can save the army now.
Really? What is happening right now? Play. Just wasting my time. Come on. Okay, we're just going to end it there. And we'll be back with part 2. There is a, just like them, I have a thanks button on the channel. And you can't, I mean, I hit pause. So yeah, why wouldn't you? Just keep playing. It's fine. I just want to punch. I hate these commercials. I get so many of them anymore. Anyways, there's the thanks button on the channel. You can donate to the channel if you'd like. All donations are appreciated. You can request things. You don't have to. There is the subscribe button. Just click it. It's free. Thumbs up. That's also a great thing. If you like to do a thumbs down, you can. If you do, I hope that you're on vacation with your family and you just slip and fall and slide right on down a mountain. And I mean, you and into a lake filled with crocodiles. Yeah, I feel good about that one. So we're going to end it here and be back for part 2. Till then, have a good day, have a good night.